So, Marvel Rivals just released and I have been having a great time with it. I played the beta back in July and I fell in love with it, and I'm so glad it was able to have such a smooth launch and has gotten such a big player base already. It's being called Marvel's Overwatch, which makes sense, there's clearly a lot of inspiration, but I also think there's enough new and exciting about this game to make it stand apart in ways that other hero shooters, Overwatch 2 included, haven't been able to do. The game launched with an insane cast of 33 characters, and with a universe as wide as Marvel Comics, I'm really excited to see who NetEase is going to add later down the line. And so here are some characters that I want to see in Marvel Rivals. Listen, I get the Overwatch comparisons, but clearly these are entirely different games. I mean, they have Genji, but we've got Genji but a girl, or Genji who punches, or pre-release Genji, or Genji with webs, or Genji with a good sword, or Genji with claws, or Genji pretending to be Batman. This video is brought to you by Raycon. Raycon's wireless earbuds are known for their sound quality that rivals the big audio brands, but at only half the price. Their everyday earbuds have an ergonomic design so they don't slip out of your ears, tap functionality, multi-point connectivity, wireless charging, and awareness mode, and active noise cancellation, all for a fraction of what the big audio brands will charge you. I love my Raycons, they're a must-have for any audio lover. The noise cancellation alone is going to help me a lot this holiday season, but they also make for a great gift for that one person in your life who's just impossible to shop for. If you're watching this, you know who you are. Because they started just half the price of other earbuds, but still with the same premium features and sound quality, they're especially great for when you have a lot of people to shop for. I mean, just get everybody in your family Raycons. Get your parents Raycons. Get your great-grandmother Raycons. Get the baby Raycons. Actually, don't get Raycons for the baby. I don't think babies can have earbuds, but everybody else, go for it. Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/TroyOboyo to get up to 25% off site-wide right in time for the holidays. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and thanks to my patrons for able to get all my videos early and ad-free for just $1 a month. I'm going to be throwing some ideas out there for these characters and their movesets. Just know that I am not a game developer and I'm not at all thinking about balance or anything like that. These are literally just characters I want to see. The first character is Cyclops. Scott Summers first appeared in X-Men #1 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby from 1963 and is easily one of my favorite members of the X-Men. In recent years, he's been overshadowed by the likes of Wolverine, but I think after X-Men '97, we're due for a resurgence in Scott's popularity. I think it could be really fun if he was like a sharpshooter type of character. His only power is his optic blasts, you know, opening a portal to the punch dimension, and so it could be really cool to revolve his kit fully around those. Maybe his primary fire is just a single blast, but his alternate is a steady beam that gets more damaging the more you use it, sort of like Symmetra's or the mining laser in No Man's Sky. He could use him as a bit of a backdash, like in that scene in X-Men '97, and for his ultimate, maybe Scott could take off his visor and close his eyes before shooting out a huge beam that takes out everything in his field of view. Sort of like that cowboy guy from Overwatch. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember his new name. I know they changed his name for a very good reason. I don't know what his new name is. Cyclops and the X-Men as a whole have had a ton of costumes throughout the years, and so there's a ton of really fun opportunities for alternate skins. You could get his classic original suit, his 90s design. There's honestly so many to pick from. I think the way that Marvel Rivals has been handling the monetization through skins has been pretty solid for the most part, especially for a free-to-play game. The battle pass is a little bit slow to progress. I wish you got at least like some progress per level, but store prices are about what you'd expect from something similar like Fortnite, and they also come with really fun MVP animations, and some skins even come with these crazy intros. Like, that's just to show off the skin. That's insane. Speaking of the X-Men, the next character I want to see is Colossus. Piotr Rasputin first appeared in Giant Sign's X-Men #1 by Len Wein and Dave Cockrum from 1975. He's very much like the Superman of the X-Men, this indestructible but gentle giant whose compassion drives everything he does. And he's an obvious pick for a tank character, or I guess they're called Vanguards in this game. I don't care. I'm still calling them tanks. Maybe there are different levels to his metal form that block more and more damage, but need a longer cooldown. I remember Mortal Kombat 11 had this interesting thing where Jax's metal arms would heat up with each attack, and you could unleash that as a projectile. So maybe the same idea could work for Colossus. The more damage he tanks, the more he's able to dish back out. One of my favorite aspects of Marvel Rivals has been the team-up mechanic. The ability to get different effects or moves based on who else is on your team, almost always because they have a connection in the story. It's such a fun concept and really sets itself apart from other hero shooters. Like Spider-Man gets this huge symbiote burst with Venom that makes for a killer combo. Magneto gets a big ass sword with Scarlet Witch, and Wolverine can literally fastball special over enemy lines. I swear this is the best game ever made. And Colossus is a character with so much team up potential. We already have his sister Magic on the roster, and so maybe the two of them could get a damage boost or an extra moveset, or maybe him and Winter Soldier could be metal arm bros. I don't know what that would mean, but like something. Also, fun fact, if you look at Wolverine's movelets, there's actually a blank spot for his fastball special, which makes me think that there's going to be another character he can do it with, whether that's Colossus or the Thing or something else entirely. There are honestly so many mutants you could pull from that can make great characters like Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Gambit, Jean, Jubilee. But if we put in every cool X-Men character, this would just become an X-Men game. which honestly I wouldn't mind. Also, if it feels like I have X-Men on the brain, it's because I literally do. I just dropped a really big, almost hour-long video pitching the X-Men in the MCU. I don't like to toot my own horn very much, but I think it honestly might be one of my favorite videos I've ever made. So go check it out when you're done with this one. I've been playing a lot of Spider-Man lately. He's a super hard character that takes a long time to master, but once you do, he's super rewarding. But I can't help but think it's funny that Marvel's most popular character is also objectively the most difficult to play, which I kind of like. It's forced people to discover new characters like Iron Fist or Squirrel Girl or Jeff the Landshark. But at the same time, it might be nice to get a similar experience without having to go pro Genji mode. And so the next character I want to see is Miles Morales Spider-Man. Miles first appeared in Ultimate Fallout number 4 by Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli in 2011, and he's who am I kidding? You know who Miles Morales is. What am I doing here? There's been some talk about Miles just being an alternate skin for Peter as opposed to a whole new character slot. And while it would be cool to get skins with whole new voice lines, I think that Miles has enough interesting abilities like his invisibility and his electricity that can make him unique enough to stand out. He can still web swing and double jump and wall crawl, but maybe instead of being the high risk, high reward character that Peter is, Miles could have a bit more range and be a bit more consistent, playing more with his webs instead of full on melee. He could use invisibility to get to the backline just like Psylocke does and stun people with his Venom Strike. And maybe for his ultimate, he whips out that big ass lightning sword. That's like the best thing that they've added to Miles lately. Like I don't care that it doesn't make sense. It's so fucking cool. I love that Yuri Lowenthal is voicing Peter in this game again, and it would be fun if Najee Jeter also comes back from the Insomniac games, and the two of them could have some fun team ups. Like maybe they each get a bonus web fluid when on the same team. Honestly, with Spider-Man, I just changed like 2 settings and then I started getting like better with him. But even then, it's like a flip of the coin if I'm going to carry the game or drag the whole team down with me. One thing I think is lacking in the roster for this game is support options. We have some great ones, don't get me wrong, but compared to the sheer number of tanks and duelists in the game, and how important it is to have at least one healer on the team, it'd be nice to see a few more strategists to pick from. And so what better character than the one specifically designed for support, and that's Rescue. The Rescue armor first appeared in the Invincible Iron Man number 10 by Matt Fraction and Salvador LaRocca from 2009, and is an Iron Man armor made for Pepper Potts. It doesn't have any weapons on board. It's strictly designed just for that, rescuing people. And so it could be really fun to lean into that. Obviously, she would need some form of self-defense and a little bit of damage output, but to really prioritize healing and keeping teammates safe could be a fun different avenue. Maybe instead of being a squishy 250 health character, she could be more like a tank and have some more survivability to make up for that. I think the key to a game like this, where the roles are so important, is to make sure that everybody's able to still have fun and want to play what helps the team. Whether that means turning the supports into essentially glorified DPS characters, or giving new and interesting ways to interact with fights. Her primary fire could be healing, but maybe she could also pull teammates toward her to save them from tough spots, which could honestly make for a really solid counterplay to a Jeff ultimate. I swear, I feel like every match I see Jeff throw an entire team off the map. Don't get me wrong, it's very funny, but still, it's every single game. I also think the roster is lacking in straight up villain characters. I mean, we have Hela, but others like Loki, Venom, and Magneto haven't really been villains in years, and I'd love to see more variety on that front, which is why the next character I want to see is Green Goblin. Norman Osborn first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man number 14 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko from 1964, and he very quickly became one of my favorite— oh my god, where did that come from? I feel like that's going to be a problem one of these days. One thing that makes Rivals stand out so much is that it has characters like Iron Man and Storm who perpetually fly above the battlefield. In any other game, this would be totally broken and would dominate, but there are enough tools from other characters to deal with them, like Hawkeye's Sonic Arrow, and it makes fights a lot more fun having to focus not just on the ground, but also on the skies above. But they're still, for the most part, pretty stationary, and for Green Goblin, it could be fun if he's always dashing around on his glider, dropping bombs and just being a nuisance. He could have his regular pumpkin bombs, but maybe he also has bombs that do knockback, or smoke bombs, or ones that turn you into skeletons. There's always a big debate between the traditional glider Goblin and the Ultimate Universe Green Goblin where he turned into a big monster. I prefer the more classic style, but maybe his ultimate could be reminiscent of that. Other villains I want to see are Juggernaut, a Taskmaster who steals different moves. Thanos could be really fun, like maybe each ability uses a different Infinity Stone. And I feel like Doctor Doom is essentially a given down the line with all the lore they've been setting up. The next character I want to see is Blade. Blade first appeared in Tomb of Dracula number 10 by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan from 1973. After his mother was bitten by a vampire while pregnant with him, Eric Brooks gained vampiric abilities without the usual weaknesses, making him the Daywalker, the perfect vampire hunter. Blade is one of those characters that feels like a given just considering how beloved he is. And listen, it's not like the MCU is using him right now. I swear, it's a movie about a guy that kills vampires. It should not be this hard, Marvel. And with Wolverine, Magic, and Moon Knight already in the game, we might as well round it out and fill out the rest of the Midnight Suns roster. Oh god, they should put Ghost Rider in too. That'd be sick. One of the things that I like about this game is that a lot of the roles aren't necessarily set in stone. You have characters like Wolverine and Venom who sort of blur those lines between tank and duelist. And it might be fun to do the same for Blade and make him kind of like a high damage strategist character. Maybe he's primarily a melee fighter using his sword, and with every attack he could fill up a blood meter. And with that meter, he could either heal himself or heal his teammates. You could say it's vampire magic or blood magic or something. They've taken plenty of liberties with powers like Namor summoning squids to be turrets. Crazy, very fun, crazy. Oh, Morbius would also make a really fun support character. but there's like a lot of baggage that comes with that guy, so maybe not. The next character I want to see is Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. Kamala first appeared in Captain Marvel number 14 by Kelly Sue DeConnick and Scott Hepburn in 2013. A Pakistani teenager from Jersey City, Kamala gained polymorphic powers after being exposed to Terrigen Mist and takes on the mantle of Ms. Marvel to honor her idol Carol Danvers. And now she's a mutant instead, which is cool. It's fine, you know. That's what she was supposed to be when she was created. But it was during the time when like Marvel really hated the mutants, and so they were really pushing Inhumans for everything. I love Kamala Khan. That original run by G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alphona from 2014 is one of the best Marvel comics ever. And she was honestly adapted pretty well in that Avengers game that lasted like 9 months. How long was that game? What the fuck was going on with that thing? It might be kind of fun if they made her sort of like a tank character, but more like a grappler. With her embiggen powers, she could turn her arms into kind of a shield, but also tie people up and throw them around. I don't really want to see them add her light powers from the MCU. I know like everybody's over it by now, but I still think that her embiggen powers add so much to her character and what her story represents. But I do really like how they're taking certain characters and giving an extra spin to them, like with making Captain America from 2099. And so it could be cool to see a Ms. Marvel 2099 who became a fan of these heroes by reading about their histories, and she could have different future tech that gives her different abilities. I'm really excited that this game isn't afraid to pull from some more modern stories and newer characters, like with this Iron Fist being Lin Lee, who's a relatively new addition to the universe. I'm a firm believer that adaptations are the best place to showcase these new legacy heroes and give them a firmer place in pop culture. Perfect example being John Stewart Green Lantern. There's a whole generation of people who think that he's the Green Lantern because of the animated shows. Kamala Khan doesn't need that by any means. She's easily one of the most popular new Marvel characters alongside Miles of the past 10 years, but still it's really nice to see that we're not restricting ourselves to just the 80s or 90s eras of the comics. Also, hopefully this means that Lin Lee will get a solo comic that lasts longer than 5 issues this time. One of my favorite members of the Marvel Rivals roster is Cloak and Dagger. Having 2 characters in one slot, switching between the two with different moves and abilities is such a creative way to go about that iconic duo, and shows that Rivals is more than just your average hero shooter clone. And I would love to see more characters get the same kind of treatment, which is why the next character is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne first appeared in Tales to Astonish number 27 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1962. I've talked about this before, but Hank and Janet are at the core of so many iconic Marvel stories. Janet specifically is the heart and soul of the Avengers team, and yet the movies never really gave either of them time to shine. And so it could be really fun to give that duo a similar 2-person slot, except instead of switching between strategy and healer like with Cloak and Dagger, they're switching between flanker and tank. Maybe Hank could be a bit more Giant Man inspired, and he's a beefy melee tank like the Hulk, and you have an itty bitty Janet just riding around on his shoulder. But then you switch between them and Hank gets smaller, and Janet is more like your Genji type of DPS, throwing shurikens and zipping around with her wings. And for a team up, it could be really fun if Hawkeye could shoot you on one of his arrows and send you flying across the map just like the fastball special. By the way, Hawkeye in this game is so much fun. I just need like a green skin for him and we are golden. And the last character I want to see is Daredevil. Matt Murdock first appeared in Daredevil number 1 by Stan Lee and Bill Everett in 1964. Daredevil might be my favorite Marvel character. At the very least, he's had the best consistent run of comics out of everybody else. And so he can make a really fun character for Rivals. Moon Knight is someone I've been having a ton of fun with. They've done a really good job adapting him from the comics to the game. And I love that his shurikens bounce and ricochet between enemies, even letting him fight around corners. And so Matt's Billy Clubs could do something similar, but instead of needing to bounce off an onk on the ground, they could just ricochet off the walls. Now you might be saying, but Daredevil is blind. How could we play as him? No imagination. Also, let's be real, Matt can see better than anybody else in the Marvel universe at this point. They don't lean into the blind stuff nearly enough, in my opinion. Like, the only time I can think they actually like used it well was in Zdarsky's run, where he put on just like a random t-shirt from Punisher's house. And so he was running around as Daredevil with a Punisher logo on his chest. And this was right after he accidentally killed somebody, and there was like a manhunt trying to find, oh my God, I love it. That run's so fucking good. Maybe he has a passive that lets him see the outline of enemies through walls, and his ultimate can straight up be Widowmakers and let the rest of the team do the same. I've been dying for a Daredevil solo game for literally years. I have a whole video on it, and especially if they end up incorporating some kind of PvE or maybe even a story mode, that could finally scratch that itch for me. And they could do a lot of really fun stuff with this costume design, leaning into the boxer aspect of the character, like with Marco Cicchetto's suit and the hand wraps. Honestly, that's like the best look for Daredevil ever. I love the more stylized art direction of this game, especially after so many years of every single superhero thing trying to mimic realism. Like, look at the difference between this Black Panther skin from the Avengers game and this Black Panther skin. These characters just lend themselves so much more to stylization like this, and it's making me want more high production level animated work from Marvel outside of just Spider-Verse. There's been a lot of discourse about why this game is succeeding when so many other games in the same genre have failed, and while it might be just the Marvel logo carrying it, I think the answer is even simpler than that. The game is just fun. The biggest thing that I want from this game is for it to learn the lessons of those that came before it. Back in 2016, when it first launched, Overwatch was the biggest game in the world. And it became that because, above all else, it was fun to play. And I think it lost that steam because fun became less of a priority. Characters got totally nerfed to the ground. They added role queue. There was a hyper focus on the meta, which is what drove me away in the first place. And it's not just Overwatch. So many fighting games do the same thing. Hell, even Fortnite took out all the cool Marvel stuff during the Marvel season, hyper focusing on balancing and never letting the player base naturally figure out how to deal with problems, which is part of why I love Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. That game is not balanced at all, and because of that, the competitive scene is terrible. But when I boot it up and play as the Drink and have these crazy matches, I'm having fun. And it seems like Marvel Rivals is, at least in a way, learning those lessons. They're working on a if everything's broken, nothing's broken logic. Marvel Rivals is nowhere near perfect. There are a lot of improvements that they can make to things like the Battle Pass progression, but I don't care about those things because the rest of the game is just so much fun. It might not last forever. This might just be a honeymoon phase and people will move on to the next big thing in like 2 weeks like they always do, but I don't mind that because I can do the fastball special. God, this is the best game ever. But what do you think about Marvel Rivals, and what are some characters you want to see get added later down the line? If you liked this video, be sure to the like button and subscribe. Special thanks to Elijah Wakefield, also the Sting, and Axu, Cabbage Boy, Cassidy, Calvin Brown, Caroline Brenneman, Chicken McDoofus, Dan, Danny Boy, Eden Kenna, Egan McFarlane, Evan Bowers, Fastest Man Dead, Finn Yates, Hannessy, Harper Sires, Howard Bell, If You Know You Know, Iron Ninja, Jake Selig, Kai Dud, Ken, Leo Stringer, Melody Dreamer, Glassbear Productions, Morpy, Mr. Game 959, Popcorn Eater 123, Raptor 77, Rocco Awad, Rylan Archuleta, Sav, Sean Mansington, Sherbet, Spectacular Clyde, TDW Fan, Theo Crouch, Tim Neufeld, Choices by Razor is Lame, and Yash Kapoor for being spectacular fanboys on my Patreon. This has been Troy Boy 17. Be responsible, and I'll see you around.